What's coming up on today's show? A world champion is here. Runner Nate Tucker joins the program to chat about his recent win at the 2025 Parathletic World Championships. You won't want to miss this. Let's get started.
Welcome to Parasport Nation with Alex Smyth and Nathan Clement.
Hello, Nathan Clement here, and joining me once again is the Big J Journal himself, Jeff Ryman. Jeff, how's it going today?
I feel pretty good. You know, yesterday was a bit of a stressor over the holiday weekend. As of this recording, I spent the Thanksgiving Monday, just rotting away on the couch, watching ample amounts of sports, probably way too many, and probably ate also way too much. How about you, Nathan? How was your long weekend?
It was great. I kind of had a recovery week, so I wasn't on the bike too much. Got some upgrades to the bike that I needed to get done, but what stood out to me was on Saturday, it was rainy, it was wet in the morning, and I really wanted to watch some college football in the afternoon, so I went out for the ride in the morning, and as soon as I got back home, the rain stopped and the sun came out, so I was so sad that I got stuck in the pouring rain, but we were kind of talking off camera and it got me wondering something, and because we were both in vegetative states on the couch watching sports. If you had a dream sports lineup, whether it's parasport events, what would you want to watch if you had a full 9 a.m. till going to bed time slot of sport action?
Oh, it's such a good question. 3 sports back to back to back. So for reference, on last weekend, I watched the Leafs lose, the Jays lose, and the Bills lose all back to back to back. So it was a bit tough. If I'm going to choose 3 para sports, I think para swimming has to be up there. That's always so fun to watch. Olympics, Paralympics, whatever it is, if it's swimming, it's one of my favorites to watch at any games. For sure, para ice hockey. I mean, Canada, US is always super fun to watch. That's on our radar leading up to Milano Cortina 2026. Oh, and what else? This is such a tough question. Maybe wheelchair basketball. I feel like I'm starting to get into the basketball mood with the NBA season kicking off really, really soon as well. So I think I'll go with that. I'll go with swimming, I'll go with para hockey, and I'll go with wheelchair basketball. What about you, Nathan?
For me, it's got me thinking a lot just because there's so many amazing sports, and whoever I don't pick, it will always be tricky. But being someone who grows up on the West Coast, and we've had this conversation in the past about time zones watching sport, I think the perfect way to start the day off is with some paracycling. Get some paracycling on the TV, watch it, and I was going to say wheelchair basketball just because of doing some of the PSN updates, and shout out the PSN update. There's a lot of times where I do watch a lot of parasports just so I know what's going on, and I was able to see the Canadian team qualify for Paris by watching a lot of those games on YouTube. But if there was one that stood out to me in that kind of middle during the day slot, I'm not going to go with wheelchair basketball. I'm going to go with wheelchair rugby. Right now, the team's really changing, and there's some amazing things happening there, but for the prime time, for the evening viewing, it's hard to not pick para ice hockey. Just with what we're talking about and leading into Milano Cortina, that is going to be the most exciting of everything happening there. But I do think it's going to be really interesting to see all of those different sports throughout a day. You've got it perfectly set up with cycling in the morning. It's a European sport, so probably going to be some European paracycling race going on, a little bit of wheelchair rugby, and then getting right into para ice hockey for the prime time for the nightcapper. But what do you think of that list, Jeff?
I like it a lot. There's definitely a lot of sports that we could have chosen from, and that's not necessarily a knock on any of them, especially running, because of our guest today. So just pointing that out there. Yeah,
this is no slight on any sports, but you You teed it up perfectly. We have a world champion joining us today, Nate Tucker, and I've had the privilege of getting to know Nate over the last couple of years. Just his work ethic, his commitment, and everything that he does is really phenomenal. And as we talk about, and this is not a spoiler for the interview, but as we talk about is just the progression of his class and his category and kind of staying on that TV sort of lens of sport viewing. In the sport of athletics, is there any event that you love to watch the most, Jeff?
Ooh, typically the sprints. Any one of the sprints, 100, 200, 400 meters, hurdles, any of that. If it's a sprint, just because it's so quick. And I just love seeing how fast these athletes are. And again, this is not a knock on Nate by any means. 1500 meter. And like I mentioned before, his race was a phenomenal finish as well. So, but for me personally, what really gets my juices going are just those short sprint races. What about you?
I think for me, like the 100 is that one event that always sticks out, but I was lucky enough to be in the Canada team kind of like hall area during the Paris Paralympic Games back in 2024. And we actually had Nate's race on the big screen, and he ended up winning silver. And just watching the 1500 and just seeing the changes, the dynamic flow, and someone who wasn't too familiar with like a lot of the intricacies of a lot of the running events other than the sprints, it was captivating. It was amazing to watch the 1500, how the ebbs and flows of the race in a quick 3.5 to 4 minute just pounding of the track and pounding of athletic ability, and it was really amazing to watch. But that is the perfect cue and the perfect setup for Nate joining the show today. Now let's go to our interview with Nate Tucker. Nate, thank you for joining us.
Of course, thank you for having me.
First off, congratulations on winning the world championship in the T38 1500 meter in a championship record time. What was that race like, and can you take us through the events of that day?
Yeah, absolutely. The year was wild and very inconsistent and all over the place, so we can get into that later. But yeah, honestly, I was so prepared for this race. I was living in Atlanta, Georgia, so the humidity didn't bother me. And I was just really ready to go. I was unsure how the race was going to go. I figured the Aussies were going to play some form of team tactics. We don't necessarily, we're decent friends off the track, but we definitely don't like each other when we're on the track. And I just tried to honestly have them forget I was there. And I pretty much did that until 200 meters to go. And I ran like someone was chasing me, and I didn't look back. I'm known for looking back and seeing where people are, but man, I just wanted to get to that line as fast as I could. And I remember crossing the finish line, seeing my coach Heather, and her kind of, I was talking about the race, her showing me a video of the last 15. Honestly, I didn't even hear them. I didn't realize they were that close. But I was hoping that line was going to come as quick as it could. And man, after losing in Paris, it feels so good to be back on top. And just like I said earlier, like the year was just so not perfect, and it's cool when you can pull out results even when things don't go your way.
That's one thing we've talked about, like behind the scenes, you and I, is just like the caliber of athletes, especially in your category and especially in a premier event like the 1500 meter. And you talked about Paris there, maybe not being the result you hoped for, but kind of going into this season, even in Instagram, you mentioned the ups and downs of the year. How did you yourself train and prep to get back on top and really succeed in India?
Yeah, so I had to be really creative this year. I can crush workouts on the track, but just some of those easy, as you would in cycling, just go for easy ride, an easy run for me as an athlete with a coordination impairment. Recovery runs aren't really a thing. So I like to go swimming and use the bike as you mentioned before we got on here, and just a way to low impact, get that volume, get that aerobic system going. And honestly, India was so tough to prep for, in the sense of I took, I think 60 Pepto-Bismols while I was there, 12 dehydrated meals. I was literally eating oatmeal out of a coffee cup. I had a sensor on my ribs that I used to measure my core temp and my skin temp, because I knew it was going to be really humid when I competed. And I think not all athletes look at those really small things. And I probably wouldn't have if it wasn't for my coach, Heather. But I had an amazing team around me that really were like, these are the low hanging fruit. And these are what we really need to focus on. And honestly, I raced like crap all year. Like I ran 4 minutes to 3:58. I've run 3:47 before. And so, but training was going so well on the track that I was like, I know it's going to show up, and I have a feeling it's going to show up when it matters. And so I just had to believe that. But Nathan, you know how it is as an athlete, when you don't have that performance to kind of give that confidence, that mental battle can be even harder than people think.
Yeah, that mental battle can be such a challenge and a difficult thing, especially in a sport like yours and a sport like mine in cycling, where the season's so long and we don't often have a lot of competition throughout the year. So you really hang your hat or you look at that previous competition. But when you're able to train, when you're able to get out every single day, and as something I really respect in you, Nate, is just your way to innovate and your way to take that next step as an athlete. And especially in that next step, you're absolutely surrounded by an amazing support system. You just recently got married. Congratulations. You as well have a family with quite an athletic prowess. And really what I'm curious, and just kind of letting the audience know, what was it like growing up, but also now at being at this top level of professional parasport? How do you find that next level with an amazing support network around you?
Yeah, I mean, it's been great. Honestly, growing up, people always think that my parents pushed me super hard. They didn't necessarily, but I just got to see elite athletes perform at the highest level day in and day out. And I wanted to be better than them. And I wasn't shy of telling them that. And so I think that's the way I grew up. And I mean, literally, we would race in the street at 7:30 in the morning before school every day to see who was the fastest in the house. And so that was something that I just loved to do. And I think just competition was something that was free. And like, if you got second or third, sure, at the dinner table, we would give you a hard time. But at the end of the day, like if you went out there and gave your all, we didn't really care. And so that was something that really opened my eyes. Like, okay, I can fail freely. And that's something that I've really told my siblings. Like, hey, yeah, we want you to win and do all these things because we think that that's what you want. But at the end of the day, you can't win unless you fail first. And so that was something that I've, especially with my sister, that I've really shared with her. And at the end of the day, I think why I've been successful is because my injury has caused me to be super creative. And honestly, that's why I love disability, because I can still get the same result as an able-bodied athlete can, but I have to do it completely different. There is no linear way to there. It's like such zigzag all over the page. And so I think that really has helped me just in my life, to be honest with you, to know that I don't have to do it like everyone else, and being different is fine. And I think, I'm sure you can relate to this, Nathan, but it's not easy to be different at first. But I think when you really, grab it and you really own it, like this is who I am, I think that that's where my success has come. And of course, as you mentioned, like my team is just truly amazing.
And in that team too is ASICS. And you've been able to be an ASICS runner now for a little while. And even recently, this year, I believe you were in Tokyo for a running event. And what is it like to have a company, to have a brand like that supporting you and behind you?
Oh yeah, it's truly amazing. At the end of the day, I'd be lying to you if I said it wasn't like a childhood dream of mine. I mean, I remember seeing my parents getting their Team Canada kits or their different brand kits, and so it was always a huge goal of mine. And honestly, I kind of like threw it in the garbage a little bit just because it seemed like it wasn't going to be possible for me. Just because I'd won all the titles, almost anything you could ever do in the sport I'd done, and there was just no feedback from them or from any company. And all of a sudden, Militia Bishop connected me with ASICS, and honestly, it's been an amazing relationship. They've bent over backwards for me. They created shoes for my wedding that said Wolfpack on the side of it, and all my groomsmen and my wife's bridesmaids got those. And one of the employees actually came to my wedding, and yeah, like you said, they flew out me to Tokyo, and they don't treat me any different than an able-bodied athlete, which is awesome. But they love me for who I am, and because I speak to their company quite a bit internally, because their motto is sound mind, sound body. obviously I have a hole in my head, and with sport, the mental toll is, very similar to a business. And so I think there's just so much overlap. And when you find a company that you connect with so much, like I don't have to pretend, I can just be myself. And I've found over the years it's really hard to be someone else. So when you can just truly be yourself, it just clicks so much. And I just really appreciate their support.
That's beautiful to hear. And just like even speaking to you behind the scenes, just like everything they're doing, like customizing the shoe and everything like that makes such a difference at the end of the day, not just for like growing your brand, but also just for that confidence in yourself, because you have a team, you have that support. And that's kind of been like tailored to my last couple questions there, is that team aspect. But looking to the future, this is something I love to ask, especially with a sport like running, and especially in a high like caliber event like the 1500. Where do you see your class or that event going or expanding with the professionalization of parasport?
It's been crazy, honestly. Like I came into the sport, the world record was 402. And I ran 347, and then Reese Langdon, one of the Australians, broke my record this year and ran 346. So, I mean, it's now like you almost can't be in the top 6 if you don't break 4. And before that, that was the world record, which was part of my mental battle. Like I'm not an athlete all day. Like I'm a husband. There's yard work I need to do. We're looking to buy a house, so I have jobs, speaking engagements, things like that. And so I was curious if at, the level, I'm still very committed, but it's not my everyday life and I'm more than just an athlete. So where could I be successful? And I hope that it really shows athletes that you can do more than one thing, that you're not just a one-trick pony, that you can do public speaking or you can have a job on the side, and just it can really, benefit both sides. And at the end of the day, if I'm happy, like outside of my life, then I'm usually pretty fast. And I just honestly think our class is going to continue to just explode. There's awesome athletes in the class. And I think, we're all so close. I think there's 4 guys or 5 guys under 350 now. And we don't like to lose to each other at all. So I think LA 28 will be pretty exciting.
Yeah, it's going to be really exciting just to see that continuation of growth. And that's something across like all of parasports. But speaking of parasports, definitely a hardball here. And I see that bike in the background too. If you were to try another parasport, what would you like to try, or what would you be curious about learning about?
Either swimming or biking or cycling. I'm really bad at both of them. So it's not because I see an avenue for me to be successful. But I like doing hard things. And I think that's why I love public speaking, because I grew up with a stutter and I wanted to become a better speaker or just be able to talk to people more. And I think there's a great social aspect with cycling, and then a great competitive side with swimming, and you can do it so much. Obviously, both of those sports so well because it's a non-impact sport. And so I just think I would love that kind of atmosphere of both of those sports. But I definitely don't know how successful I'd be. That's for sure.
Knowing your running background, but also your work ethic, you'd be successful in anything you do. Now, this is
I appreciate that.
I love asking this, as we are athletes who spend a lot of time outdoors. If you were to plan like the perfect running vacation, wherever it is, however long, say it's a week or weekend, where would you love to go? Maybe run in the trails, or is there a track that you dream to run on?
So St. Moritz, Switzerland by far has been my favorite training camp in the Swiss Alps. Just absolutely beautiful. But a place that I haven't explored yet is just different parts of Japan. I've gotten to go to obviously the Tokyo Games, didn't see anything. And then I went to Tokyo this past year and got to see a little bit more. But I would love to go up into the mountains of Japan and actually see some of those views. And that's something that I would love to do. And now, like, bringing my wife with me is kind of, a thing that excites me as well. So be able to kind of do that touristy kind of thing, but also get some running in. I think that would be a pretty ideal vacation for me.
Yeah, Japan is just amazing and just phenomenal. But staying on that travel theme, and this is one question we love to ask on this show. What is your favorite food destination that speaks to you, or that personal to you, that you've been to?
That's a good question. I mean, I love Mexican food. So anytime we go to Mexico, huge fan of that. We're actually going on vacation to Italy at some point, over Christmas. And so I can eat anything from Italy. That's for sure. Their bread, their pasta, all that stuff is I'm 100% in with that.
That's amazing. Italy is just always phenomenal and always amazing. Do you have any pre-race superstitions or sort of like traditions that you go through before you get on the starting block and it's time to go?
Yeah, I'm not someone who like necessarily sticks to them, but I definitely one big one I do is I love to meditate before I run. You've definitely heard this, but I like to think like Nate off the track is a very nice, sweet guy and likes to joke around and have fun. And then my coach calls it the gray wolf, who kind of shows up on the track who's not very nice. So I kind of turn into my ultra ego. I forget about what's going on in my life for those 4 minutes of racing, and just focus on that. And so for me, for some reason, that separation has always been something that really helps me compete at a really high level. And I love to, if I have a morning race, I love to eat oatmeal. And if I have a PM race, it's usually some form of Subway sandwich, which is kind of funny, but it's just something that sits well in my stomach. And then post race, I do love to have a good beverage after the race, if it goes well. So that's, I think one thing I've done really poorly was celebrate things. And so now I'm trying to do better I get one day to have a drink with my wife and enjoy it. And then obviously it's time to get back to work.
I would lose my journalist status if I didn't ask this question. What is your go-to Subway sub?
The Italian BMT is probably my go-to, with pepper jack cheese, because I do like spicy. Living in Phoenix for a little bit of my life, or training a little bit in Phoenix, I like that kind of Southwest cuisine. So I like a little bit of spice.
Yeah, I can't go wrong with the Italian BMT. And Nate, now you just had World Championships wrap up a few weeks ago. What does this season look like for you as you go into the 2026 race calendar?
Yeah, it's kind of a weird year, honestly. We have Commonwealth Games, but they don't have my classification in the 1500. So honestly, off the track, it'll probably be busier than on the track. I love to train, so I'll always be doing that. I'll probably get in some races later in the year, like June or July. My wife is in law school, and so she'll be taking the bar around that time. So I'll help her as much as I can. And then when she doesn't need my help anymore, I'll go and do some races and let her focus and study. And then, I'm looking to get a job off the track. I'm kind of transitioning and talking to different people, seeing what that might look like, and just kind of seeing how I can balance that. Obviously, 27 and 28 are two really big years going into the games. And so I want to see just how that balance works and how that life works, because my goal is to be there in 2028 and be ready to go.
We can't wait to see what you do in 2027 and 2028. Nate, thank you so much for your time. We're really appreciative of you coming on here. And once again, congratulations on the World Championship.
Thank you so much, Nate. It's always good to spend time with you, man.
And that was our interview with Nate Tucker. Now, I've gotten to know Nate over the years, as I mentioned earlier, and during the interview, and just the work ethic, commitment, and heart that he displays day in and day out is absolutely just remarkable and deserves the highest praise, because he's one of those best standards of Paralympic sport in Canada. And for him to get back on top and win another 1500 World Championship, his third, is just amazing. But Jeff, was there any big takeaways from that interview for you?
Yeah, one of the biggest things for me was just how the mental side of things he's just so in tune with, just those fine tuning of the mental side. He said he learns from his failures, which is like a motto that I live by too. I'm a very strong believer in that. So it was kind of fresh to hear an athlete of his caliber talk about that. And then just, again, the small little details. He said that he was training down in Atlanta in the humidity, prepping for the humidity and the heat of New Delhi. So just those fine little details that he pays attention to is really sort of that standard that sets him apart from a lot of the other competitors in his class. So, there's really... it's down to a science for him, really. So it was interesting to hear him, talk about those little tiny details.
It really was. And even just the conversation of when he got into the sport, the world record for the 1500 was 4:02. And now we're in the mid 340s. That is a remarkable jump. And that is in a sport and in a distance like athletics. That is phenomenal. That is unheard of. Just the level of ability to take a 15 to 17 second jump like that. It's amazing. And just where that category and where that event's going to go in the future. It's really amazing just to see this evolution. And I know that's a conversation that I have and I ask a lot of cyclists, but a lot of other athletes that question, just because we're really in a golden age of that evolution of parasport, from the training to the recovery, but also to the food as well. And food plays such a big hand in sport, whether it's the dialed in nutrition a lot of us have day in, day out, but there's also room for kind of a fun meal every once in a while, something that takes the pressure off, helps us be in our comfort zone. And for Nate, it's oatmeal in the mornings or it's Subway sandwiches in the evenings, which is something I love and adore so much.
It was awesome to hear him say that, because it's so refreshing, because normally you think high class athletes, and especially with a runner who runs the 1500 meter, they're probably even more cautious of what they put into their bodies, or a biker like yourself. So it was fun to hear them say sub sandwiches, because those are one of our favorite things to eat too. So Nathan, this is a perfect segue into another edition of Blind Power Rankings.
Blind Power Rankings.
Let's go. So what are we power ranking today?
We're power ranking pre-game meals. So I looked it up on the internet, so it's 100% factual, about professional athletes' pre-game meals. Now, these are apparently their go-to pre-game meals, with all of them being a little bit odd. So I want you to power rank them, one being the most delicious, the one that you would absolutely go to have pre-game, and 5 being I'm good, hard pass. So Nathan, are you ready?
Let's do it.
All right, so Tom Brady would eat sweet potato pancakes with maple syrup. Where would you power rank that 1 through 5?
That's a good one. That's challenging. It's an interesting the sweet
one.
Potato makes it interesting. I would put that at a 4.
Okay. So number 4 is Tom Brady's sweet potato pancakes. No surprise. If you know Tom Brady, he's never eaten a strawberry, and he's very, very particular about what he puts into his body. The second one I'm going to throw at you, Nathan, Serena Williams, mac and cheese with steamed veggies.
Now, as a carb athlete who needs to eat a lot of carbs on race day, mac and cheese warms my heart hearing that. And I think, and I know you're going to really cook something up wild at the end. So I'm going to put mac and cheese at 2.
I like that. So 2 and 4 are taken by Serena and Tom. The third option here, Tim Duncan, frozen yogurt with pickles. Pretty obscure.
That's pretty obscure. And that, what's is it pickled flavored frozen yogurt, or is it vanilla or something that you just add?
I'm assuming frozen vanilla yogurt with pickles, or maybe it's just frozen yogurt infused with pickles.
Well, I'm someone who's just recently got a President's Choice spicy pickle kind of dip that's actually really nice for my morning omelets and different kind of dishes I have throughout the day. So I'm actually going to put that not in 5, I'm going to put that in 3. And I'm going to keep the edges available because let's see how this plays out.
Ooh. Living life dangerously. Option number 4. This is a classic. Wayne Gretzky, beer. Plain and simple. Just a beer.
Beer. Just a simple beer. Got to give that the 1. Just got to give that. I haven't done it. I wouldn't do it. But got to put that in the 1 spot.
I know a lot of people who have done it. It's carbs. I'll just leave it at that.
Stress
It's
off?
just carbs. I don't know if it was just one beer or multiple. Knowing Wayne Gretzky was probably one because, he skated like the wind. And the last one here, Marshawn Lynch with Skittles. Oh, that's number 5.
I knew you would sneak that in there. I'm a Seahawks fan, and I guess I rolled the dice wrong. That's going in the 5, sadly.
So just to recap, number 1, you have Wayne Gretzky's beer. Number 2, you have Serena Williams mac and cheese. 3, you have Tim Duncan's frozen yogurt with pickles. Number 4, you have Tom Brady's sweet potato pancakes with maple syrup. And at number 5, Marshawn Lynch's Skittles. I think that's a pretty solid list. Pretty respectable, Nathan.
That'd be quite a spread to have on a table. Just looking at all those at once and then just be like, you know what, I'm going to go do a race after that, or I'm going to go compete would be pretty phenomenal. But you know what's pretty phenomenal as well is our listeners and viewers. And sadly and unfortunately, we have run out of time today. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Catch you next time.
Thanks for tuning in to Parasport Nation. Like and subscribe to the channel to follow us now.